Welcome back. In his confirmation hearing today, Pete Hegseth, President-elect Trump's pick for defense secretary, refused to say whether he would carry out an order from President Trump to seize Greenland or to take over the Panama Canal. We do expect similar questions about Trump's foreign policy and his desire for territorial expansion tomorrow. That's when Trump's pick to lead the State Department, Senator Marco Rubio, will appear before his colleagues for his confirmation hearing. Recently, Kristen Welker spoke to the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, and began by asking him about Trump's threats to impose 25% tariffs on all imports from Canada and the use of economic force to make Canada the 51st state, and whether he's taking those threats seriously.
I have to take these threats seriously. When the president or President-elect Trump says something, it's really concerning. I have a different approach. Why don't we work together, build the two greatest countries in the world, make us the most prosperous, the richest, the wealthiest, and safest two countries in the world. We have a lot of sectors that we could support the U.S., and we do on a daily basis. I just think we're stronger together, and that's the message we're sending across the U.S.
Prime Minister Trudeau has said that there is no way that Canada would ever become the 51st state. Do you agree with the outgoing Prime Minister?
I do agree with the outgoing Prime Minister, and I think everyone feels that way for the most part in Canada. But there's a real opportunity on a trade deal, working together, making us stronger. Let's decouple a lot of products that are coming from China, bring them back to the U.S. and Canada. Let's create strong, good American jobs. That's what I believe in. You know, Chris, and I spent 20 years of my life in our Chicago facility and our New Jersey facility. I love the U.S. I absolutely love the Americans. And I know they love us, too. I've talked to endless governors and senators and congresspeople from both sides of the aisle, and no one's saying what the president's saying. So I'm concerned why he's ratcheted it up over the last couple of days.
And you talk about potentially renegotiating a trade deal. It is possible that President-elect Trump is using the threat of tariffs as a bargaining chip. Now, according to the CBC, of course, the broadcast network in Canada, senior officials in Ottawa are considering putting retaliatory tariffs, if Trump does move forward with imposing them, on steel products produced in Michigan and Pennsylvania and orange juice from Florida as a way to send a message to Trump. Do you believe that officials in Canada will target those states that also happen to be critical to Republicans?
That's the last thing I'd want to do. But if we get faced at 25% tariffs, we have no choice. And no one wins in these tariff wars. No one wins in these trade wars. The only people that win is China. They're the only people that win, not Americans, not Canadians. So, let's hope that doesn't happen.
Let me shift gears a little bit. You've announced you're going to be leading a delegation of Canadian premiers to Washington next month. What do you hope to achieve, and what is your message both to lawmakers in Congress and, frankly, the American public about this potential trade war?
Yeah, really to inform the American public. We're running ads. We're hitting over 100 million Americans every day with our positive ads, working together, what we have to offer to the U.S., no matter if it's our energy or, critical minerals, rare earth minerals. And there's many different areas, but that's what we're focusing on.
And of course, the United States, the rest of the world is gearing up for the second Trump administration. What did you learn from the first Trump administration that you think will inform how you approach your relationship to Donald Trump in this second administration?
Well, I was part of the last trade deal with our federal government with Bob Lighthizer. He was a good man, very honest and straightforward. I would want that same relationship. Again, we're stronger together. When all heck breaks loose, and God forbid it ever happened, who's standing by the U.S.'s side? It's Canada, and vice versa, and U.S. as well.
Let me ask you about something that is happening in Canada, the turmoil after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced he plans to step down. How much do you think President-elect Trump, his America First policies, will influence whoever Canada chooses to be its next leader?
I don't believe too much at all, really. I know he didn't see eye to eye with Prime Minister Trudeau. That's fine. The Prime Minister Trudeau lost confidence within his own party. He's had to step away. Now it's a new chapter. Let's move forward on a real positive approach. I can tell you, Ontario, we're the third largest trading partner in the world, just Ontario alone. We're the #1 customer to 17 states, the #1 export destination, #2 to 11 others. 9 million Americans wake up every morning to produce products just for Ontario alone, not even the rest of the country. Again, we love our American friends. We love the U.S. and let's build AMCAN Fortress, as I say, American Canadian Fortress, and we're unstoppable around the world economically if we do that.
I have to ask you about NATO. Of course, it has been in focus, particularly in the wake of Russia's war against Ukraine. President-elect Trump suggesting that NATO countries should spend 5% of their GDP on defense. Now, we should note that the U.S. does not contribute that level, but the NATO Secretary General has suggested allies do need to contribute more. So just broadly speaking, is President-elect Trump right here?
100% he is a 2% NATO commitment. All the premiers, and for the listeners, that's equal to the governors. So we have all the premiers on side, really pushing the federal government to make sure we meet the 2% NATO commitment. We also truly believe we need to tighten up the borders on both sides of the border, not just one side, but both sides. And we're doing it. We're getting it done and have a more secure border.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.